What's up, everybody? If you guys haven't seen me talk about it recently, there has been the request to talk more about the Intel World Open. So we did that. We talked about the Intel World Open. We talked about how big sad it is that everything is regional based and that we won't be able to compete on an international level with teams and players representing their countries. We discussed this kind of in full. If you guys didn't see that video, go back and check it. But we're hanging out here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Lawler. As you can see, all these lovely people over here are being nice and saying to do a thing. I would recommend doing what they say, not for personal gain or any specific reasons, but it wouldn't hurt. Click the button. If you guys enjoy the content and enjoy some of this like live YouTube, Twitch content coming over and editing down, it's been a lot of fun to do. We've been hanging out with chat. It's been a really good time. But primarily, if you guys enjoy it, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of it. But today's video, we got something a little bit different. We talked about in the IWO video, if you guys wanted to see me do a tier list of the different countries, to tell me. And a lot of you definitely told me. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to switch over to this other screen and try to explain the situation. It's not easy because for some reason, the way that Psyonix organized the rules makes my head hurt. So as you guys can see on the right side of the screen is 4 different regions. These are the regions that would be playing against each other for qualification. All of these areas play against each other. All these areas play against each other, etc. You will notice that some regions like Europe have an East qual, a West qual, and a North qual. So basically the way that chat was telling me is like East of Germany is one, North of Germany is another, South of Germany, etc. is another. I'm American, so we never learned that in school. I know nothing about these things as a stupid American. So what I have decided is on Liquipedia, you can go over to Europe and it'll actually organize all the players by their countries. So Europe has a bunch of different players in different countries, and we're going to basically try to make what I consider, or try to make the best team based upon the talent pool that is within that country. And that is how I will do the hierarchy for my tier, because not everybody is like the Americas, where you can literally just go to the United States and it lists everybody and then just keeps listing people, because our states are basically the countries in Europe. It's a big country. I get it. It's not this easy all the time. So we're going to try to do a tier list. We're going to try to figure out how these things are going to play out. I may miss some countries. We may miss out on some stuff. If I do, let me know in the comments. I'm sure you guys will let me know. But we're going to try to give a hierarchy from S tier down and go from there. It's not going to be too strict. Ultimately, we're basically like building our ideal teams between the regions. And then based upon how I think, like, yo, Yukio's from Austria, probably Yukio for shoots and giggles. We'll go with Grandmaster Sexy because I haven't seen that boy in a while. And then like Ivan or something because he plays for Current with German Amigos. That's our team. Is Yukio and Ivan enough with GMS, who hasn't been playing in a long time from my knowledge? And then we rate it. We go from there. So that is the thing that we will do. If you look at the IWO rulebook, it's all over the place. They list stuff in alphabetical order of the countries and then say what region they compete in, rather than just being like, these are the regions you compete in, and this is a master list of all the countries. They do it the other. It's a pain in the butt. So we're just going to do it this way because it's more fun and it's easier. So with that said, let us submit our tier list with all these countries, and we'll go from there. And we're going to make it nice and easy. Also, you guys are going to see how tiny walnut brain my American brain is about how little I know these countries by their flags. We're going to start off with Argentina. Looking at the teams, AJG is really good. Chad is really good. That's 2/3 of True Neutral, the #1 team in the region. But who would they go with? That's kind of the like, who would they go with? Out of all the players, I genuinely do not know. Ultimately, as a collective, I think Argentina is probably a good in between. I think they're like BC material. Probably C for average, and we might bump them up. Because not playing with their full roster, I think South America, although very talented, definitely lacks some things sometimes. If you're not playing with their full dedicated roster, that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know. Maybe it bumps them down a little bit. But I think right now they're a good baseline. I think it's a really good place to start. Next up, we got Brazil. I think Brazil is definitely at least a B tier. Between what? Habercamper, PJ, Bruno's pretty solid. Brad's pretty solid. Kaio, obviously. Firefox. I mean, you've got pretty much most of Noble. Hearts of Furia, like Erased is in there. Yeah, you can do the full Furia squad. Hell, you can even bump them up if you need to. That's like a solid BB plus. I think arguments for A, but again, I don't think you guys recognize what my other tiers are going to be. Next up, good old Canada. I think Canada can actually do some pretty good stuff. Obviously, you've got someone like Squishy Muffins. You've got Illusion, I think, is a really good player. If I'm making my ideal team, you got Squishy, Illusion. Who's their third? Sosa or Rodoko. Jordan's really good. How is JNaps not? Oh, where's JNaps? There he is. So yeah, JNaps, Squishy, and Illusion. Like, hello? That's like S tier. Do they really not have Lethmir on the list anymore? Why is Lethmir not on here? Like, they've got Lachinio, but not Lethmir? He retired? What? You tell me Lachinio hasn't retired? AXB hasn't retired? I'm just saying. There's some names in here that should be in here. For sure. I think there's a lot of people that they're missing on the Canada stuff. Either way, I think Canada has a very talented roster. For sure. Next up, Chile. Raise Bull from True Neutral. But is Raise Bull enough to bump them into D tier? Raise Bull's the only one I know. I think if you've got Raise Bull and Pan there, yeah, you can put them at least D tier. Let's go to Mexico. I would probably put them at a D. Maybe C. I mean, it's the same kind of concept as like Chile is like Chile has some players, but like ultimately is that enough to go with the solidified like all three players that are like top 2, top 3? United States, USA. I mean, obviously there's the player base is huge. There's so many players in the US. Of course. Also, the United States won the last World Cup tournament. Like, they're S tier. Duh. How do you not make God tier teams with this many players? Like, duh. So that's it for the Americas. Let's go to Europe because you guys have a bajillion countries. First things first, let's start with Austria. So you got Yukio for sure, Ivan, and then you put in GMS or whoever. Probably Emote from Minx, I would say. So you've got these three. I'd put that like a C tier, maybe B. Probably C tier is where I'd probably put it. Maybe they pop. These are all relevant players, I think, in the last, 6 months. I think you could maybe push B if they like pop off, but probably C, I think. I think that's a good, like, yeah, this is some good representation for your country. I think it's a very solid C. If there was a tier in between, maybe you'd put them in like C plus B minus area. Yeah, I think it's a good sell. Let's go to Belgium. Astral for sure. Fake Cow, man, what an old name. I mean, Eversax isn't bad. Atao, I know. Oh yeah, Impact. Impact did play for Echo Zulu. Yeah, we'll give him a C. I think we'll give him a C. You never know what can happen. Czech Republic, Lottie, and 2 friends. Who you want, Lottie? You don't really have much of a choice. It's like D or Shrug. I think we put him in Shrug because like other than Lottie, like let's go to Denmark. Denmark I think has got some solid talent. You've got Ronicky for sure. Fruity, Snasky. There you go. That's your team. Although I would love to see Mummy Smith. Oh, and Maestro. Oh, Fisho. You could actually get you could probably get 2 solid rosters out of Denmark. I think probably a B. If you're taking their top roster, you got Ronicky, Fruity, Pondex. God, what an OG throwback. England. I think England's got a pretty good chance. I think this could either be A or S tier. Let's think about why it's S tier instead of A. Devo, Flame, Cash is pretty solid. Joyo's pretty solid. Relating Wave. God, Sebadom, OG. Speed is in there. Archie's in there. Yeah, I think we go S tier. I think we go S tier in England. We have to. There's too many players, right? Like, without a doubt. Finland. Alexi, Metza, Regsar. You could also field the entire Exon esports team. But, like, do you want to? I mean, Metza, poor Metza, on his own. Oh, yeah, we can do staff and talents. Jazer Magnus. So, Jazer Magnus Metza. I think that bumps him up. I trust in chat. We'll go with chat. Chat says D. Most of you guys are saying D. I can respect that. Do we even need to talk about France? Like, it's France, dude. If you're born in France, you automatically become one of the best players in the world. All right, let's go to Germany. Calix, Freaky, Godsmilla, MK, Rizex. You can do, I mean, Demons, has Tigray, and Tox. I think B or A. Probably A, I would lean towards. Let's take a look at Hungary. Coconut, Mateos, Zinadar, Richmond, Pyro. Big shrug, honestly, if I'm being honest. Like, I have more faith in OSM representing Iceland alone. All right, let's check out Ireland. Ireland could be fun. You got Vert. Throw Mike rules in there. Why not? Ireland, I don't feel too confident in, if I'm being honest. Like, D or Shrug, probably. Probably D, in my opinion. I'm actually pretty confident with Italy. I'd say B. I just don't think they have as much. Let's check out Netherlands. Netherlands definitely is interesting. There's a lot of OGs from the Netherlands, too. Current, though, Matane, Jorias, Rix Ronde, Oli, Though, Panda. So you do 2/3 Dignitas. So you do Panda and Jorias, and then you find a third. Another really cracked offensive player. I actually kind of like that. I think that could be A tier, honestly. Norway. Gosh, some names in here I haven't seen in a while. So for Norway, Didris OG, Reganam is OG, Seeb, Sniper, Trex. I mean, you've got the full Nordavin team, but like C or D? Because I look at who's in C and I can't arguably put them above that. Like, not even close. Poland, do we even need to bother? Like J Cubed, cool. And Petrick. Anyway, Portugal. Acronic. So Acronic, what's the plan, dude? What's the play, buddy? Prize me an experience. Okay, shrug then. Shrug. Where's shrug? Next. I'm just kidding, man. I'm thinking like a C, maybe. And that's being nice. Russia is big old shrug. I agree with that. Scotland, a shrug or a D. Cal's toasty. Scrub. God, I haven't seen Ryan play in forever. Like a D minus. Spain. I mean, Spain is pretty straightforward for me. But who would I build with it? Thamway, CRR. Wolf's playing as a sub right now for Giants. VK Salen's pretty good. Steak's pretty solid. Marked by 8's pretty good. Doritos solid. Demensa's pretty good. Atomic's pretty good. Just put it S tier. You just play with Team Queso. They've even got a bit of an advantage. Sweden. So Turbo is playing obviously for Envy. That's where he is located. So he is out. So let's do some throwback. Flarkey, Data, Zensis. Sweden doesn't look good, chat, if I'm being honest. Just a big old sugarooski. They'll have great viewing parties, you know? Switzerland. Stocky, Skyline, Repex. Probably a shrug on this one. Wales, Tadpole, and Creams. Creams doesn't count. So you've got Tadpole, Tinny, and I mean, for Wales, do we really got much? I mean, Ravina, I'd probably go with a D. OCE. So for Aussie land, we've got a little bit of an option, right? Where do I think round 0 would place, even at the world stage? I think a B is fair. I think they'll field like 2 good teams, maybe 3. One will probably drop real quick. CJ will find a way to not qualify, which will make us all sad, as it always does. New Zealand. So for those that don't know, in the past, it was pretty much Kami. Kami was pretty much New Zealand. That's pretty much what it was. And he was really upset because he's like, who the heck am I supposed to play with now? Still kind of stands. I'll probably go with D. If Kami's saying he's playing with Sprat and a third, who that third is going to be? Probably Kenny, I would assume. I don't know who else is like active still. That's like at that competitive level. Maybe Haza. I just don't know who they would go with. I don't have a lot of these up just because of the way that they're playing. There's a lot of just shrug. I don't know. I will say Japan will be Realized, Tenhao, and Conra, which is the Tokyo Verde team. And I do think that team could do some damage, especially if they have RNGs on their side. If it's RNG, they're S tier. They're 6 to 7 in my land simulation, but I would probably put them at C tier. The reason why I say that is I don't think they have much exposure to the other regions. And even though they have a lot of talent and they are very good as individuals, up against like actual play styles that have been developed for years, I think maybe like a C plus B minus is where they would put. As for South Africa, Middle East, I think Middle East put at A tier. A or B? What do you guys feel about like Sandra? I think like the Middle East has like 6 or 7 pretty solid teams. Like Middle East in general has got some pretty solid teams. And there is a chance that like, because they're only sending 1 rep, right? Like Middle East has 1 qualifier. There's a chance that Sandrock doesn't even qualify. There's been some pretty solid teams in the Middle East that I don't think people are aware of. I hope APL, if you guys don't know, APL has been putting on like Middle East and Asian tournaments. Please support them if they're trying to get this stuff going. I think it's really important for the scene. But there is some solid, there's a solid like 5 or 6 teams in the Middle East that are competitive. Like they're pretty dang good. So I will say that. I don't think they're S tier. I think you could probably put them at like A, maybe a little bit lower. It's just with no land experience and stuff, you just never know. You don't know what representation is going to come out of that region. Hopefully it's good. Obviously, hopefully it's exciting, but it's hard to tell. It was really hard to tell. As for South America teams, we've already did those kind of on an individual. As for Africa, that to me, I just don't know. Africa to me is kind of a shrug, and that's not to be mean or anything. I just genuinely do not know. Like you've got Itachi, but Itachi is obviously playing elsewhere. Chat, that is what I've got. Let's make it big. Let's see if there's any adjustments we need to make. I think our S tier is pretty solid. I think you can maybe make some adjustments in here, possibly. There's just kind of that unknowingness, you know? I would say Spain A due to selection. I agree with that, but I think Team Queso has solidified themselves as like a top 6, even if they're on a bad day. I think you can put Team Queso as like a top 6 in Europe. And like if you're taking a top 6 team in an entire region and they're able to play each other, you know? I'm pretty happy with this. I'm pretty happy with this. I will leave a link to this for you all if you would also like to do it. So everybody watching, everybody in chat, everybody who is here hanging out and providing the insight, it is greatly appreciated, especially for some of these regions I do not know as a silly American. But tier list, I think it was pretty fun. I think we a pretty solid actually overall. There's a couple that are just like that unknowingness and like you have the questions. The fact that you even have to speculate about like who's where or like what team is going to do well on land and stuff like that, I think is good conversations to have if we're arguing about like tier switching which is good. I think our S tier is pretty dang solidified. I think you make arguments for Spain based on queso and stuff because of the depth from Spain. You're basically relying on like 1 or 2 teams with CRR and Dorito and stuff, but still a lot of talent. Either way, if you guys are enjoying the content, you guys enjoy what's going on, make sure you guys give the video a thumbs up, as well as make sure to hit subscribe, turn on notifications. I will leave a link to this actual tier list in the top comment. I'll make sure to pin it as one of the comments. And if I don't, just yell at me in the comments, but I'll pin this. I'll make it so if you guys also want to make your own tier list, do so. Feel free to share it with me. Hit me up on Twitter or whatever it is. And maybe we'll do a comparison to what you guys think. Overall, appreciate you guys all coming and hanging out. Appreciate you guys all supporting the channel. Links to all my social medias and stuff in the description. You guys know what to do about the subscribe button, all that kind of stuff. You guys have been crushing it lately. But that is going to do it for this video. Chat, any last words? Any things you want to say? You guys are already kind of saying bye to YouTube. But like, I'll give you guys the final words. What do you got? What do you got for YouTube chat? Saying goodbye, saying later. Suck a butt. Suck a butt, YouTube. That is the final words from Gizmock. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next time. Peace.